All right, my babies. We're gonna do a video, and today's video is the true language of the world is energy. Wait, the language is energy, or the currency is energy? And we only express it by feelings. React. Feelings trigger the thought, respond. Thoughts trigger the feelings. So we react when feelings trigger the thoughts, and we respond when thoughts trigger the feelings. But hear me out. The true language of the world is energy. Do I agree with that now? Yes, the true language of the world is energy. We communicate through energy. Energy creates value. And ultimately, what we do with that energy is tradable. And so if I'm looking at a monetary system that life does, at the core, energy is, should I say subjective? No. The value exchanged by energy is a subjective endeavor. As in, it's the way, okay, so like, let's do it this way. Like, yeah, I guess feeling is the money, right? And it's how we make others feel is basically the touch. Or how we make others feel is basically how we make others feel is, I guess, is the payment change, is the value exchanged. So, I always said money is the language of value, right? Like, how do you speak value, right? Money. Money, not currency, by the way. Currency is, money is the language of value, the objective language of value, right? If you were to, what does a cup, what's the value of a cup to me versus another person now? This is standardized, but what if it's a cup passed down through 5 generations? Priceless, right? Priceless becomes subjective, it's no longer objective. It's no longer utility, it becomes a lot more sentimental. And the idea is that if money is the language of value, then currency is how we communicate value. Right? Because, like, what is valuable to me and how it's the easiest way for me to communicate it is through the currency, and currency translates into money because, like, again, money is gold, money is assets like land, silver, minerals, something that's kind of like substantial and that value appreciates. Like, we use these minerals, we use steel, all of these have value because you can always find a way to exchange them for money, but you can't always find a way to exchange money for them. Supply and demand kind of shit. But anyways, the true language of the world is energy, and we only express it by feelings. That means every time we react, basically, or our reaction is feelings triggering the thought, which means the world is expressing something. And holy shit, the world, the universe. anytime you react, it's the world responding to you and exposing your feeling to a certain thought process you were trying to communicate with yourself. I want you to seriously consider this. What we do is we say something, we think of something, and then the whole world kind of like shifts in that space. The whole world starts looking at the people around us, the items around us, the elements around us. It starts looking at all of them. And what it does is it starts kind of like restructuring the world based on our thoughts. Now, if we're speaking in a certain direction, for example, like for me, I'm an entrepreneur, I have a startup, and I'm building around small businesses to do better. For a while, I was moving in a certain direction, thinking that's the best for small businesses. And then one day it hit me, and I was like looking at it, and I was like, shit, I'm kind of going nowhere. And how did it hit me? It didn't hit me through thought. It hit me through like a kind of like surge of a whole lot of emotion and feels. So I noticed my body was reacting, and that was basically the world telling me you ran out of options with your train of thought. But because you're still on this train of thought, the only way we can expose the other thing or the other side of the world is through opening your eyes. And I can't open your eyes because the world doesn't communicate objectively. It can't. The universe can't communicate objectively. It responds objectively. It responds by showing you things that you're thinking about. Right? Like an angry guy basically sees any reason to get pissed. And a chill guy doesn't see even people fighting. It's just kind of like walking around and completely like in his own head. Right? So the structured approach is basically like you objectively, or you have a thought or you have something, and the best way the world responds is through showing you things, because it's not a feelings thing. But then when there's nothing left to show you, it triggers you and then you react. So you start from a feeling and then it becomes a thought. And that's a new thought for things to be explored differently. And respond is basically when a thought triggers a feeling, and then like you're doing something, then it kind of like hits you, and then what happens is a feeling comes about. And that's you kind of like segmenting, I guess, the world, or at the very least, I don't want to use the term painting, but I want to use the term dying. Because when you're world building, what are you doing? You're kind of like taking sectors out of it and kind of like involving yourself in them. So that's basically when you touch something, it kind of has your feel around it, right? When you kind of like approach something, you have your feel around it. I think something beautiful is kind of happening right now. So here, the true language of the world is energy, and we express it by feelings. Energy is expressed by feelings, so the world expresses by feelings. But how can the world tell you how it feels? By triggering a feeling in you. Right? Okay. So, if a world triggers something in you, and those are feelings, and feelings trigger thoughts, and thoughts basically create a different design of the world. And ultimately, the new design of the world, with the new segmentation, with the new openings, with the new everything that's happening around you, that is in the world. What ends up happening is basically like, you start approaching things differently, and you respond to them differently. Right? Because you're responding within your capability. You're responding based on the realm that you have in your head. Sometimes you can change what happens in your head through training, studying, involvement, growth, right? Perfectly fine. But our growth is not really like tree growth as human beings. Our growth is a lot more metamorphosis growth. And it takes me back to a video I once did. Like, if you just can get better, if you could just change by training and being like diligent, then everyone would basically like, I guess, be the best or be masters or whatever that is. It would not be called a trial. A trial is when you kind of like overcome yourself. And when that happens, like your whole, the way you perceive the world changes. So when your world objectively limits itself, when your reality limits itself, your world explores itself through you. It triggers you. And then your feelings change your perception of the world itself. And then you start responding to the new thoughts that happen. And those thoughts become the feelings that rearrange the world. I feel that's basically the language and the way we speak. And it's the energy that we basically receive and how we receive it. And when we stop receiving it and when it changes. Because again, like, you know, it could be, it is energy, but like, you know, where am I investing it? Where am I putting it? How am I receiving it? And how am I taking it? Is it heat? Is it cold? Is it calm? Is it directed? Is it scattered? All these forms are basically like our interaction and how we realize how the world is expressing itself and how we kind of like communicate, I guess, with this universe of ours. What do you think? It's a video. I love you.